It's going. I was just telling Chris he's a pain in the ass.
And I was agreeing. So,
I was trying to find my camera just zoomed out so much when I opened Zoom compared to what I'm used to. I was looking for a way to make it zoom in, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Zoom doesn't have a zoom.
Yeah, it doesn't have a zoom. Suddenly I feel exposed. My bed is just
That's
Oh, you
okay.
got yours
My
too.
bed's right
Perfect.
there, so it's
Yeah,
okay.
okay, perfect. It
what,
matches the vibe then.
Jess, do we have any dead body vibes under
No, it doesn't
the
look like a
sheet?
dead body tonight.
No, it doesn't. That one a couple weeks ago really did look like a dead body under there.
Well, I mean, I guess you'll never know. It could have been.
I like to see someone else rocking the all black bedding. I don't see
Yeah,
it too.
that's my cover sheet. The bed itself has like tropical parrots and gives Golden Girl vibes.
Oh, okay.
What blown up Pokemon cards do you got back there?
Oh, yeah, that's Eevee. But if you look on the top, it's Eevee. But if you like look from the left or the right, it changes to
Let's see.
Umbreon and
Ah,
Espeon. And then yeah, Mimikyu, and then just the art versions of Mimikyu, basically.
Umbreon's
That's
the
sweet.
best Eevee
I know.
evolution.
Agreed. Agreed.
It's the darkest one. Come on. It's the most emo.
It is. I know. I was just gonna say that. Yep.
Well, if you're ready to go, we're ready to go.
Yeah, how's my mic sound? Do you guys need it louder or
No, it sounds
You're
good.
good.
it's good? Okay, cool.
I was told I have a sultry voice.
Yeah, it's very
I don't know.
sultry.
We got to play off of that somehow.
My sultry
Jess,
voice.
your sultry voice. It just happened yesterday. She was told this, and
Oh, really?
now we got to live it up. Now we got to play into that.
Oh gosh. We'll figure it out, right? Maybe. So, if you could please introduce yourself to our listeners and, you know, all that jazz.
Yeah, my name's Josh, aka Is It Josh? I'm a musician from originally Omaha, Nebraska, and now I live in Philadelphia. I was born in New Hampshire, so it feels good to be back out on this side of the map. I do a lot of content creation, and you know, I kind of got a second chance at music through TikTok and Instagram Reels and all of that stuff. So here I am, just a 34-year-old ex-corporate man who thought all my chances of this were gone, and I'm out here chasing it again. So
Hey, you got to chase something in life, right?
yeah, it felt so weird when I stopped. It didn't last long.
So, former corporate man, what were you doing before?
Marketing. Yeah, I was doing marketing for a medical staffing agency. It was horrible. It was horrible, but you know, because I was working in marketing, I was forced to, download TikTok and then learn it pretty early on for the company. And that's what kind of led to myself going viral and subsequently letting me do this full time instead now. So
Yeah. We're still not good at TikTok.
No.
it's hard, and it's only gotten harder. Back then, you know, I could just say anything I wanted into the camera and get 50,000, 100,000 views. And now, you're pining for 1,000 views, 2,000 views. You see people accounts with millions of followers that, can't break 1,000 anymore. So things
Yeah.
Yeah.
change.
It's
Yeah.
First,
well, I mean, it's oversaturated now.
yeah. And the first time I heard of TikTok, when it was brand new, there's a skateboarding channel on YouTube called Braille, and they were sponsored by TikTok to push the
Oh,
app.
okay.
That was the first I heard of it, and I was like, I'm not downloading that. Uh,
Yeah, I was dating a girl at the time who was like just watching, the dances, and she was doing some like Kardashian lip syncing stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm not. I didn't even think twice about getting it. So I'm glad that I did.
Yeah. Well, it's worked out for you, so
Yeah,
that's always
yeah,
good.
yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just curious, if you had to choose two songs to introduce your music to someone who's never heard of you before, what two songs would you pick and why?
Yeah, and that's such a good question because I truly, I know everyone, like a lot of people say this, but the way I bend genres is kind of makes it really hard to show off my music because one song might be a pop rock upbeat song, and then the next I'm screaming. Like, so it's hard. But I would say Gateway Drug, and Gateway Drug is kind of a mix between the two. It's one of my newer ones. And it does have some heavier aspects and some pop aspects. And I actually worked on that song with one of Black Bear's producers, so that was really fun. So that means a lot to me. And then the second one would be Just Tell Me, because that one's really shows off the pop side of things, but how I'm able to make this kind of pop music that sounds like someone who grew up going to Warped Tour is singing it.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing I try to do is to write this type of pop music or pop rock music that you would hear on the radio, but then I kind of give it this vibe that's like, wait, this guy might have listened to a lot of post-hardcore growing up, you
Yeah.
know?
Did you go to Warped Tour a lot over the years?
I did, but it was kind of not as much as others did because growing up in Omaha, it just didn't really come through.
Right.
It would go to Kansas City instead, which was a good 3.5, 4 hour drive. And when you're 13, 14, that was near impossible. But towards the end, they started coming through, and I made the trip out a few times. So, yeah,
Yeah. I went to a lot of dates, but I was also older when I first started going to Warped Tour.
yeah, yeah. It was kind of like dying off by the time I was like 20, 19, 20, and
Yeah,
uh, yeah.
there were some years that, I mean, I went from 2003 to 2018. I went to a Warped Tour, potentially multiples in some of those years for that span. But I mean, closer to like the end of it, it was getting a little like, I don't know,
Yeah,
not as exciting.
it was. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I caught some of those at the end too. And it was sad to see, because, just other genres were just taking over at that point. We
Yeah.
hadn't had this pop punk emo resurgence. Yeah. Hearing guitars on the radio was an idea that just didn't exist back then,
It does make
at,
you think
at
though,
that point.
if like the last year wasn't the last year and it just kept going, like would the revival have really happened?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what would have happened because it just almost was like the passion wasn't there anymore too from the artists, no one really knew what they were doing. The albums that were coming out were kind of like filler albums, I feel like, in that era, or a lot of bands were changing their sound, a lot of pop punk bands going into like very synth heavy dance music and stuff like that, kind of aiming for the bigger festivals, which makes sense in
Yeah,
my eyes. I think that Warped Tour going away kind of needed to happen for the growth to happen. Like an X, you know what I mean? It's
right.
like it's like we all went through a breakup and the scene took some time and grew because of it.
And then now they're coming back.
Mm,
We
just
had
like
sorry, I was going to say we jumped into, choosing tune songs to introduce your music to people. How about a little bit of a background or an origin story for you, how your solo project came to be, what your past experience was like.
Yeah, so I have been playing music since I was 10 is when I got my first drum set. And I joined a band with my brother by the time I was 12 or 13. And we were playing high school parties, just, very Rocket Summer-esque sounding music back then. And then, after high school, I was a drummer, and drummers are always in very high need. And so I was in just a bunch of different bands, just grinding the scene. And I kept writing these harmony parts while I was drumming. And I started singing harmonies with these bands. And then next thing you know, I'm singing the whole hook because, and then it just became my passion. I was like, no, I really love writing melodies and things like that. And I do play piano. So, I joined a pop punk band as a singer when I was 19 or 20, and that was Take Me to Vegas, and we formed off of Craigslist, funny enough. And we found some decent like success, but it was like we were talking about towards the tail end of that era. So it was just wrong timing, We were like the band that would open up for all the bands that would come through. Um, and then yeah, I got after we did that for 6 years and joined a post-hardcore band as a singer, started a new band. It was about 25, 26. I was like, this is my last push. And I wrote a single and we put it out and it shot up to 1 million views on Spotify. And I'm going, oh no, this is it. Like we're about to, this is really gonna happen. And then COVID hit and the whole world shut down. And we weren't able to play a single show, for 2 years or tour on that song. And some of the guys in the band at that point were like older than me. They were already, getting closer to 40. And I was only, 27 at the time. And so a lot of them were just like, yeah, we're just gonna call it quits. And so the band broke up uh while we were all quarantined. And I just watched the single dissipate into nothingness. And I gave up and joined the corporate world at 30. And then, like we talked about earlier, I just it didn't last long, and I started posting my own stuff on TikTok, and it took off faster than anything that had ever happened before. And it really felt good to, it's hard to get four dudes or four people all on the same schedule and grind as you, and especially at this age, when we're all in our late 20s or early 30s, and we're trying to do this thing that's some of us are consumed by it, some of us are just kind of in it to just be in it, and now having that full control and if I don't hit a goal or if I miss something or a deadline or anything like that, there's no one else to blame. I can't be like, oh well, our drummer didn't show up. It's
You
just
blame
it all
yourself.
falls on me. So that's
Yeah.
what I like, I think, about it the most.
Have you faced any challenges becoming a solo artist?
Oh yeah, the whole thing has been insane, and I think one of the biggest things right now is attention spans. And because I have a full-length album coming out, and this album, you know, has around 17 songs on it. And by the time it's out, almost half of those are going to have been released already, because I can't just wait 6 months and then drop this because everyone will forget about me. And so it's funny, some months on Spotify, I'll have 50, 60, 70,000 monthly listeners. But then if I don't release a song, like right now, I haven't released a song in a little bit. I think I have 8,000 or 10,000 monthly listeners. And then I'll release a song again, it'll shoot back up. So I think just being that one person and needing to wake up every day and choose, okay, do I promote a song today? Do I do a personality video? Do I make a joke? How do I present my brand and keep people coming back? And, oh, it's been a little bit too long since I've released a single, but I really want to push this full length, but oh, I guess I'll just throw a single out here real quick. And yeah, it's a lot of just trying to stay relevant in a scene that just changes so quickly, you know. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
I would
mean
say.
everyone's doing the singles thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if you don't do the same thing,
Yep. That's it.
it's it.
Yeah, and then I feel bad because it's like, I have fans that are waiting for this full length, and I don't want it to feel like less of a dramatic release because they've already heard half the songs.
Right.
So then it becomes this push and pull. Where it's I'm not fighting with a label, I'm not fighting with, producers or anything like that. It's like I'm at the mercy of these algorithms and things like that. And but I think that's a struggle that everyone deals with. I just deal with it alone. So it's a lot of uh deep decision making that I just
Yeah.
have to trust my gut on, you know.
Yeah, because you don't have other band members to throw
No.
ideas off of and other things.
No, I have two best friends, and Comfort and Venus is their producer names, and they have been with me since day one. And they live in Omaha and they've got a studio out there. So that's where I go and record everything. And they've been great in this. Without them, I don't know what I would have done because I can go there and show them something and they'll be like, no, that's not it, dude. We gotta, and having someone tell you that is so important, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
You know what's funny is that when we do end up asking these questions, we kind of get the same answer from a lot of artists with like the algorithm. We got to do it because that's what everyone's doing, and if we don't do it, blah blah. Have Jess, I don't know about you, but Josh, have you heard the song Mutiny by Set Your Goals?
No, and I listen to Set Your Goals.
So Set Your Goals, the song Mutiny was about like the music industry and like they want you to fit into this box, and if you don't, then they're going to ignore you. I feel like that song also applies to how social media is now.
Yeah, I
Like,
can see that.
and one of the lines are something about being in a sea of minnows where the minnows outnumber the sharks 1,000,000 to 1. Why aren't we taking the upper hand? Everyone complains about it. Why doesn't anyone just stop it? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're all just feeding into it
We're
anyway.
feeding into it, yeah. And I see that, and it's something that I'm going to change this year because last year I was kind of struggling with this idea of like, I hear a lot of bands that I admire and I look up to, and I'll see them on stage and they'll say something into the mic while I'm watching them, and they'll be like, just a reminder, we're not TikTokers up here. We're an actual band making actual music. And I'm out in the crowd like, okay, well, I'm working really hard on my music too. It's just that MySpace isn't around right now like it was for you guys. So like that's my platform. And it's like we all have kind of, I think, along the ages have kind of molded to whatever social media is doing at the time. I think that those same bands dealt with this on MySpace, They all had to start flat ironing their hair and making sure all their pictures were super aesthetic and all that stuff happened on MySpace, and then we moved on to YouTube and Facebook and now and then and so I see
Yeah,
it repeating itself.
I made that point to a couple friends of ours who were very upset about the TikTok ban. And I
Yeah.
was like, something else would just come up behind it. Something will
Yeah.
take its place.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, really, whatever social media is at the time currently, that seems to be,
Yep.
MySpace and then Instagram, then TikTok, and
Yep.
what's next?
Yeah,
What
and
is
I've
next?
grinded all of them. I remember being on YouTube when YouTube Blaster was a thing, and you would go and scrape comment sections from people who were commenting on, your favorite band's video, and then you would use this little bot that would send out messages to all of those fans, be like, "Hey, if you like them, check us out." Like in the wild, wild west days of the internet, So it's always been a grind, and we're always at the mercy of something, especially with album sales just not being a factor anymore.
Yeah. I've come across the problem on like Instagram where we've almost gotten our profile like banned because I've commented too much or
Oh,
something on
yeah.
some stuff
Hmm.
and it literally disappeared. Like they were like, your profile's gone.
Yeah.
And then I like appeal it instantly and then 2 minutes later it's like, oh, you're back. I'm like, oh God,
Yeah.
thank
But that's
goodness.
another thing, and we're at the mercy of this because that happened to me. I just the other day posted a lip syncing video and I got a strike for it. And I don't know what it was for, but the video got taken down and my heart was racing because I'm like, what if this gets taken away from me? You
Right,
know, what then? If you get banned, what I've just spent the last 3 years working on, 250,000 people that I've amassed in my
right.
little corner of the internet, just like
Yeah, it
that.
would really suck, right, Chris, if we got Instagram gone because that's our biggest following.
Yeah,
Yeah, and like,
yeah.
what do you do at that point? My friend just lost access to her Twitter account, which is her bread and butter. Um, and that's
Right?
just it. She's just got to start
We're at
over.
the mercy of these people that can do whatever. And the
Hmm.
thing is, it's like, I don't know what it was I did, but I feel like someone had to have reported it. Otherwise, why would
Yeah,
they have just all of a sudden, oh, you're banned?
yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah,
For spamming,
yeah.
they reported spam, so then they just said, okay, bye. But they
Yep.
didn't even like
They don't even
check with
check
you
it. It's just
first.
it's a computer that kind of just does all
Yep.
that. So
That's because we're at the mercy of like the computers and AI now.
the age we live in.
The age we live in. It wasn't like that in the MySpace days, that's for sure.
No, no.
No.
Uh,
All right, so let's go away from AI and go back to your music here. Changing from being in a band to a solo artist, what is your writing process like now?
Yeah, so I really like to start with an idea. I Be it a riff, a chord, anything. Sometimes I'll just hum a melody into my phone and take it from there. Um, Something about me is I'm very much more interested in how things sound phonetically. So sometimes you might hear me say strange things in my songs because uh I might have put a placeholder word in there somewhere along the writing process, and then I can't leave it alone. So I'll just write around that. I think I have a lyric on one song that says I'd rather be a parking lot, and that's just because I couldn't not do that. But yeah, I like to start with something really small or even just a concept of a song. And then I'll send it to my producers and they'll be like, "Hey, well, what if, because one thing about me is I am horrible at guitar. It's one of the one instruments that I just my whole life have been trying to get good at, and I just didn't pick it up like the other instruments. So it frustrated me. So my producer will usually send me back like a little lead or something over it. And I'll be like, "Oh, cool. What if we did this?" And then next thing you know, we've skeletoned together a song and I'm flying out to Omaha to, we always say, do it for real. What is what we do it. So it really is. It's a lot of just kind of um writing ideas over and over and over again, and then finally finding one I like and then shooting it off to my producer and being like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And then, him building on top of it, sending it back, and then taking it from there.
Yeah.
Do you find that any of those ideas or inspiration ever come from weird or unexpected places?
Yes, and I can speak on this actually. So, I would say gateway drug. Um, I was in a point where I was kind of actually happy, like with my relationships and everything that I had going on in my life. And this song is specifically about, you know, a breakup in a sense. And because I was working with Black Bear's producer, he told me, "Hey, why don't you write down just some concepts of a song?" And I have never heard this before. Like he didn't want me to come out there with a melody or a lead or anything like that. He said, "Just come out here with a concept, maybe five or six of them, and then we'll know which one." And I sat down, and that was the first time I really sat down with no idea what we were gonna do. And um, I actually got my heart broken the night before I went out to meet him, but I had already thought of this gateway drug uh, idea. And so I get there and I tell him the idea for gateway drug. And I've never seen a producer before so quickly just be like, "Oh, well, what if it was da 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 da?" And next thing I know, he's strumming along. And what was a song that I thought was gonna just be something I was uh drawing from like an older past thing just because the idea of the song was good actually came to fruition in like a perfect time because the night before yeah, just had my heart broken. And so those lyrics flowed so fast, and he was working on things and I'm working on things. And I think within 5 or 6 hours, that entire song was tracked from nothingness. Just from a concept. I think I wrote on my notes app, "A gateway drug on your way to love." And that was it. And that was all that he needed to completely craft this song with me. And that was very cool to see someone at that high of a level in the songwriting world handle it that way. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
I can't wrap my head around that. Just coming in with a concept and having someone be able to build that
Yeah,
quickly.
and it was
That's
so strange to me too. I was like, "What is this?" I had a couple phrases written down. I'm like, "Is this really like, am I being taken seriously here?" And no, I said the words, and he's like, "Yeah, no." He's like, "Okay, well, gateway drug on your way to love, then that would be something like dun, dun, dun." And he just starts strumming. It's like, "Whoa, no, you're right. Yeah, that's the perfect chord for that." And he's like, "And then if it was like da da da," and yeah, within 5 minutes, I mean, we were just flying off. It was just off to the races at
He's
that
just a
point.
great producer.
Incredible. It's Andrew Goldstein. He wrote Hot Girl Bummer Anthem, and he wrote one of the Blink-182 songs, One More Time, I think. Um, so yeah, he's great. He's great. Good friend of mine. And I was really lucky to work with him. So
Nice.
uh, who are some of your musical influences that kind of, help form some of the stuff that you write?
yeah, so I sing in a range that is very high, and it's something that's just always stuck with me because I joke about it. But when I was a kid, I would sing along to Alicia Keys and Amy Lee and Kelly Clarkson and like all these radio songs that like I would hear. I would never do the octave down. You would never hear me being like, "Since you've been gone." I was up, "Since you've been out there." And so that kind of kicked me off was like finding that I really enjoyed singing high and like uh unfortunately they're kind of not great people now, but back when they were children, the Hanson brothers, and Bop. That was, my biggest inspiration because Zach Hansen at the time was like 10 years old and drumming, and I was like, I can do this. Um, and then from there, my oldest brother, started to put me on to um like John Mayer and Jason Mraz and that style of stuff. But it wasn't until I was about 12 or 13 that some of my friends showed me Copeland. And I know are you familiar with Copeland? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
From there, that's pretty much where my life changed. And I would say from that, I really got into that screamo scene, uh Drop Dead Gorgeous and bands like that. And so yeah, really that old school, nasty, dirty basement of a church, battle of the bands, screamo music. Um, but most the cleans that came from that, not so much the screaming. And then I would say my biggest inspiration would or influence as far as my vocal style would go would be Anthony Green, definitely. Uh, Pushing the bounds of what a tenor can do and going into those counter tenor moments in music that is marketable and like appeals to the masses to me is incredible. So yeah, um, Circus Survive, the only band I have tattooed on my body. So yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about Screamo, and I'm just like story of the year. They were like Screamo pioneers.
Yeah, I've seen them so much, and they were doing. I remember back in the day, they would do backflips and stuff off their speakers, and yeah, Story of the Year was a big influence back then. Yeah, that whole album, just that whole style of music. Anytime I would hear a guy start going up a little higher with his voice, I'm like, oh, I'm into this. And then it kind of kept me away from some of the other stuff that a lot of my friends got into because they weren't getting into that higher register. Um, like Avenged Sevenfold and things like that. I never really got into that because it was always a little more gruff and
Right.
lower and baritone. So
Yeah, so I gotta know, you grew up in Nebraska. So
I
you're originally
did.
from Nebraska, and now
Oh,
you live
dang
in
it.
Philly. Now you live in Philly. What's the local scene comparison, like what was the local scene like in Nebraska versus Philly?
You might not believe this, but Omaha had its moment. And and maybe you do because Omaha was home to Saddle Creek Records. And through Saddle Creek Records, we got Conor Oberst and Bright Eyes and Despacitos and um, who else came out of Omaha? Cursive. We had 311 came out of Omaha, shockingly. But yeah, so a lot of that folk emo is what I used to call it. I don't think that was really what it was called, but that style of indie emo came out of Omaha. And Omaha was actually ranked one of the top 10, top five, something, don't quote me, in Rolling Stone one year for one of the best underground music scenes in the world, not just the country, but in the world. Um, and it truly faded off. It faded off really quickly. I don't know what happened. But music venues started closing left and right. There's barely any left. The active bands that are out there are grinding it out still, but yeah, a lot of bands have started skipping that on the circuit too, where Omaha used to get a lot of bands and they've skipped off of that. And so now that was one of my reasons for moving to Philly, actually, was to
Yeah.
kind of go to a city where there was an active music scene again. I hope Omaha finds it again. Um, but it's just not there right now, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, besides 311, there's not a lot of bigger bands I can think of that came from Nebraska.
No,
So,
truly, I think Bright Eyes. Bright Eyes was like the big one. Yeah.
yeah. And 311's still thriving.
Yeah, and they
They're still
definitely don't
kicking.
claim Nebraska. They're not a band from Nebraska, as far as anyone knows. But
I forget
Wasn't
who.
wasn't Cursive?
yeah, cursive,
Yeah.
cursive, bright eyes. I always pronounce it wrong, but I think Despacitos is Desperacitos. I don't know. They have an extra syllable in there somewhere. Um,
I
yeah, those are
feel
the
I
big
feel
ones.
like someone just posted like a United States map and like put the biggest band from that state in it. And I can't remember who it was on Instagram or something. But I
Oh, I
know they
wonder
put
who it would
Misery
be.
Signals as Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I was like, I wasn't that big into Misery Signals, but I guess they were big enough to be
Yeah.
quoted the biggest emo or scene band.
I would say, yeah, I would if I had to guess, just Connor Oberst in general and all of his subsequent side projects would be the biggest probably media export from the music world and as far as Omaha goes.
Yeah.
So,
So we know you have a new single coming out.
hmm.
It's at the end of this month.
Yep.
This interview, however, will come out after the song
We're from
releases.
the future tonight.
I know, we're going to be from the future. We had on some Australians once, and they were from the future.
Isn't that wild? I always say that to the Australians in my Discord. It's like, oh, the future people are here. Like, yeah,
Like, how's it looking over there
yeah, how are
in
we
the
gonna how's
future?
tomorrow looking? You know?
But yeah, that being said, what can you say about the new song coming out? And do you hope your fans and what do you hope your fans take away from it?
Yeah, so this new song is called Unclear, and this is kind of the test. Like, how far can I push this? Because the verses are very slow, very pop, dark pop, moody. I love the way that they turned out. And then when I hit that chorus, it is just a drum fill and I just start screaming. And it is chaotic guitars and that's how I wanted the song to sound because of the content of the song. Um, and then after that first course, it just drops off and goes right back into pop again before exploding one last time. So this one has been incredibly difficult to promote because it's like, what do I show on social media? Do I show me screaming? Do I show a little pop? And it's been very hard. So I think that the people who listen to my music right now are going to be very excited about this one because it is both of the extremes of the Isitjosh spectrum coming together into what is now my favorite song. And I did a DIY music video for this. So if you're seeing this now, the music video is probably out now. So go check that out because very excited about that. I'm teaching myself videography or cinematography. I don't want to sound like I'm,
I feel like
better
it's a
than I
little
am.
both,
So,
probably.
yeah. But yeah, so I made my own music video for it and yeah, it's this is if it goes well, then I can definitely see myself pushing into this side of my music more.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to hear the new song.
Thank you. Thank you.
Same. And I'm just curious. Have you ever heard or listened to the band? And I'm going to mention them any chance I get. The number 12 looks like you.
No.
Okay, so the way that you described like the screaming into pop, that's kind of what the number 12 did, except they would go from smooth jazz into the best way you can describe it is teenage girls getting stabbed,
Like just
like
like
vocals.
high pitched, like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
If you want to check them out, if you're curious, the best way to ease into them is a song that's called Just Like a Cat.
Oh, okay.
So it's
I
chaotic.
absolutely, when this is over, I'm gonna check that out because it's very hard for me to find other artists that do that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's
So
chaotic, perfectly disharmonic. Like it's
perfect.
beautiful.
Yeah.
My kid can't stand it, but
Are they
I
still a
love it.
band?
They broke up and they did get back together.
Okay.
I don't know if any original members or how many original members are in it, but when they performed, they were like a six or seven piece, and they had two screaming vocalists, and they would go back and forth. It was
And that in true like screamo style, you know what I mean? I used to love that, just seeing back and forths, man. Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully I got to see them like I don't know, it must have been '05 or '06. But great show from what I remember.
Yeah.
So approximately when can fans expect this album to come out?
Right now, I'm basically in that process of an artist where I'm sitting on my hands and waiting for a bunch of mixes to come back and someone to say it's done. So it's out of my hands now. It's going through the industry. The mix engineer will mix it and then they will get mastered. And I'm hoping for an April or May release. A lot of artists will be like, "Oh, I've got it in my hands now. I'm gonna do 6 months of promo. I'm gonna get some publications to review it." I do it a different way. I just throw things out there because I think that's the world we live in. So yeah, as soon as I get it back, I'm gonna start the process of uploading. So I'm looking at probably late April, early May for the full length.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're sharing songs now, so I mean,
They're coming
That
anyways.
is
They're
your
coming one
promo.
by one.
It is your
Yeah,
promo.
it's fine. And you know what? As soon as this album comes out, I'm gonna write another song, and we're just gonna keep
And
the
then it'll
train
just be the
moving.
next album. It'll be a 20 track album
100%.
next.
And that's what's great about being like off a label and doing this myself. Like if someone heard like if I approached a label and said, "Hey, I've got 17 or 18 songs I've got on this," they'd be like, "Cool, cut it down to 12." You know? And I'm just not. I have there are some strange songs on this album. If when the album comes out, you have to listen to it. There are some strange songs that I'm not going to be releasing as singles because they
You
would
want
be
it to
out of
be a
context.
surprise. You
Yeah,
want
they'd
it to
be
be a
out of context and
surprise.
it needs to be a surprise. But yeah, there's spoken word on the album. There's a country song on the album. Um, screamo, pop, everything in between. I'm really, really, really proud. It's probably the most proud I've ever been of like a piece of art that I've put together in my entire life. And I've been doing this for, over 20 years now. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, can't wait to hear it.
yeah, thank you.
And even with this album all but wrapped up, do you have any dream collaborations for your next album?
Yeah, I do. And what's funny is I've had a few collaborations that already were dream collaborations that just fell through because just industry things happen and I'm just disconnected from being managed and in a label and stuff. So, um, but right now, there's this there's this kid, I think he's like 23, but I'm just obsessed with his music right now. And his name's 44 Phantom. I don't know if you've ever heard of this artist.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty fairly unknown, but that would be a big one that I would love to do because I just love the type of music he's making. He's calling it grunge pop. I don't know. Um, and then yeah, Anthony Green, if you're listening, let's rip some high notes together, bud. Let's let's do something. No,
Yep,
yeah,
Anthony. He's got a tattoo. You need to.
I know. I've
He's
got the
got you
safe hand
tattooed
tattoo,
on him.
Anthony. Come on, bud. You follow me. I'm gonna message you and send you an awkward message. Say, hey, bud.
Hey, maybe you do message him. Maybe he says yes.
Yeah,
You never
you never
know.
know. You
We've
never
had
And
know.
that
that happen on the podcast many a times where we're like, we're just gonna throw this out there, message this person, and then they
Then there
actually
they
get back to
are.
you, and you're just like, whoa,
Yeah.
maybe that's what we need to try with John Feldman again.
again. You can't send John Feldman messages.
Oh yeah, I'll find
Yeah, what
another way to get rid of John.
I would love to find like a screw like I do have some features that I'm not gonna give out yet, but I would love to find an artist that is into the screaming stuff, like an actual like someone who can give me some growls or some, something insane that I'd love to put on a song that I can't do without
Hmm.
destroying my
Who could
voice.
we get on a
Yeah.
song with you? Who's really good at growling, Chris?
That we've interviewed
No, just in general.
in general.
Like I just want to write like a lovely, dark, catchy pop song, but then have it just devolve into like pig squeals.
Pig squeals. I feel like Lucy would be really into that.
She could. She could if you could have a female do
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, the lead singer of the band Haunter.
Okay.
So they're like alt pop, but she
Yeah.
is super super into death metal.
Well, she used to be
Yeah.
in a metal
Yeah.
band. She used to
Those
be
are
in
the
a metal
Yeah,
vibes I'm
band.
looking for. Yeah. I just want something weird and gnarly. I
I
want
could
it to
see her
come.
doing it. And she's
yeah,
That'd be
gritty.
cool. Yeah.
yeah. She's something.
She
That'd be
is.
cool.
She is awesome though. We love her.
Otherwise, like otherwise, my head goes to like Keith Buckley
Buckley.
every time I die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brutal.
Maybe Maddie Mullins will come on a track.
Maddie, he's in like 5 bands right now, right?
What's one other thing, right?
Yeah, what I'm finding through the process of looking for features is it's better for me. Like, I have a lot of friends in the industry, and I just don't want to talk to your manager, and I know there's rapport, I get all that stuff,
Right.
but like, let's just do it. I'm looking for someone in the end. My dream feature is someone who's excited to do a song with me because there have been times where I've waited for someone for a year, that have already made business transactions monetarily, spoken to management, spoken to labels, had everything locked in, and then like after a year had it fall off, and I'm done with that. Like if someone comes around and they're psyched on my project, that would be the perfect feature for me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we've talked about your dream collabs. Now we want you to construct your own dream tour. So if you could construct your own dream tour, who would you go out with?
mm, well, here's what I would do. See, here's the marketing brain in me. I would not headline. I would pick someone who is way bigger than me, and I would put them on right after me, right? And so, who would that be? I don't know. I would love to do oh, you know what it would be? I'll tell you what it would be. It would be Joji headlining, me right before, and then let's throw Bill Murray on there, you know? And and then locals. That's it. And then
Okay.
locals opening up. I'm obsessed with Bill Murray. I think they're great.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, they are.
yeah. And Joji, just a superstar, you know what I mean? Let's get Pink Guy up there. Or Joji. And just do a weird mix like that. And then for locals, like just find some like random black metal band or some type of, just really weird people out with a lineup. But I would also love to tour with Driveways. I think Driveways is doing something really cool. I don't know if you guys know Driveways.
I think
Um,
I've heard of them, yes.
their vocalist brings a very almost hip hop flow to his verses that's got a Boston, I think it's Boston accent going on too. And yeah, they're great. I need to catch one of their shows for
I
sure.
always love a good accent.
Yeah, yeah. The Philly accent's wild. I still have my Midwestern accent, so it's whatever.
Yeah,
But
so I probably don't sound that weird to you.
yeah, no, I don't even notice that you have an accent.
I'm from Wisconsin, so
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. I heard it when you said Wisconsin there.
yes, the O. It's the O. It's the holding of the O's. It's a Wisconsin thing for sure.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get made fun of it all the time. Like, I had a coworker and she was all like, "You say the word bagel so weird."
It took me a while in Philly to get used to just random words for random things. Like I would say I'm going to the corner store, but like out here they call it like the poppy store. Like
That's
you
weird.
go yeah, or like anything's a John out here. I'm sure you know that. It's just like you go to that John down the street and you order a glazed John with an ice John. Yeah, like anything could just be a John. And that took me a little bit to adjust to, but other
Oh
than
man,
that,
and they think it's weird that Wisconsinites call it a bubbler,
what do you call a bubbler?
a drinking fountain.
That is weird.
It is not. It's not weird when you know the origin story, because a company in Wisconsin created a bubbler with a water fountain or a drinking fountain, and they called it the bubbler, so kind of got coined
Ah,
that.
kind of like how we say hand me a Kleenex.
Yep, it's not a tissue, it's a Kleenex.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? Fun fact, in Sydney, Australia, they call it a bubbler.
Hmm. Interesting.
Shocking.
Look at that.
I found that out when we interviewed a band from Australia, and I was like, what? I
Wonder
was
if you guys are
shocked.
like sister cities?
You never know. That'd be sweet because I've always wanted to go to Australia.
Yeah. I love that.
What's some of your favorite things in Philly? I'm just kind of well, okay, let me narrow that down food wise, because I'm all about food.
Yeah, same. I am too. And the pizza here is something I found to be super unique right away. They've got these like rectangle pizzas. I don't know if that's what they call them here, but they're shaped like rectangles and they're deep dish. And for me, it reminds it, yeah, it's like a East Coast pizza, but deep dish. It's very strange. Um, and the cheese will be like that thick and put the sauce on top. It's just a very strange pizza, but they're all over the place and they're really good. But Philly's still got that classic East Coast slice. You can go somewhere and get it for a couple bucks. Cliche, but the cheesesteaks. You've got your corner store cheesesteaks, you've got your restaurant cheesesteaks, you got your elevated cheesesteaks on like a hard roll. Um, and
I feel like a cheesesteak better be good in Philly.
It
because it's
is.
called a Philly cheesesteak. So if it's
Yeah.
not good
Yeah,
and
and
they don't
see,
have good
you would have, yeah, and
cheesesteaks,
see, it's only called a Philly cheesesteak outside of Philly.
it's
Here, it's
true.
just a cheesesteak. Yeah, if you
Oh
were to
well.
order a Philly here, you're outing yourself
You're the
as
mecca
not.
of cheesesteaks, so it better be good.
Yeah. But yeah, and then also there's just so many types of food that I'm not used to. Like Middle Eastern breakfasts. I had like forget how to pronounce it, but it's like baklava pancakes
Baklava.
yeah, and I would never have experienced that in Omaha. So
I'm curious, have you been to the Mac Mart?
no, I haven't.
Check it out. So I spent not even 24 hours in Philly, and when we were looking for like places to go eat, my wife found it, and she's like, "We have to go here." So good. So
Yeah, the Mac Mart.
the Mac Mart. I forget
There's
which
this
street it's
place
on.
too. I don't know if I don't think it's touristy. If it is, I'm unaware of it. But there's a place here called Reading Terminal Market, and
Yeah.
that is a place that I will only go to about once a month because it's so busy and I get all anxious in there. But I mean, every stall is just something different for someone, so that's a good spot.
That's
Yeah,
kind of probably like the public market here in Milwaukee area.
hustle and bustle. It is busy and smells so good.
So do you have any crazy stories, either from your days in a band or as a solo artist while you were on stage or maybe while you were traveling that you were like, wow, that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So, here's one for you. Right when that single that I was telling you about in my last band was blowing up, we started getting opportunities, and one of those opportunities was opening up a show for Creed, who at the time I think he was just touring as Scott Stapp, but and it was a bunch of just like dad rock bands. I think it was like this was years ago, but it was like Drowning Pool, Sick Puppies. Creed and I think Trapped or something was on there. And we were going to open it at this arena show. And we get there and we're going to do sound check. And the sound guy goes, "Hey, I don't have room for you guys on my board. Nobody told me a local's playing." We're like, "Well, man, we sold 100 tickets." He said, "Cool. There's like 30,000 people coming." Like it was just like, we don't care about your 100 tickets. And I just was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not playing the show. Like we're playing the show." He's like, "I'll tell you what." He's like, "You can either leave right now or you can play after Creed. I'll just let you go on after Creed." And I think he was saying that to like scare me off. And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Cool. We'll headline." Called his bluff. And so we go called his bluff. So we go backstage and we sit in our room the whole time. And we hear Creed going. So we watch Creed. And I told the band, I was like, "Guys, let's don't even tell these people that we're from this town. Like, let's just walk out there and say thanks for sticking around." And so Creed finished up their set and Scott walks out and he's seen us and we've all got like our drums like ready to go. And he's like, "You guys are the ones playing after me?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Heck yeah, brother," and like fist bump me, and he's like, "Good luck," and he just walked past. I'm like, "All right, Scott, Stat, thank you very much." And I walked out there, like the house lights were coming on, and people were all walking back towards the merch. And I said, "Thank you so much for sticking around." And like we got plugged in so fast. Started, I got most of the crowd to turn around, and basically we played to an entire arena as if we were a headliner. That was right before COVID. And that was probably the most insane like live performance thing that has happened to me is like going from opening up a show to a couple hundred people to literally closing out, this Creed Scott Stapp headlining tour as if I was the headlining act. And then for a tour story, yeah, just on tour, we were driving overnight from Houston, Texas to Nashville. We had to be at that show for soundcheck at 3, and we were barely gonna make it. And I fell asleep in the back of the van, and we smashed into a deer on the interstate while I was asleep and totaled the van. And we ended up being in Northeast Texas in the middle of nowhere. The nearest town was like 45 minutes away. So a state trooper had to come pick me up, drive me to the nearest town, which had a budget that was out of vehicles. And I had to go get a U-Haul from another town where the U-Haul owner of the business came and picked me up because they don't have Ubers out in this part of Texas. And it was about 24 hours from the moment we hit the deer until we finally got to a hotel. We had to miss the Nashville show. Um, but what was cool is the other bands took everything from the door and then sent it to us on Venmo to help us pay for the cost of everything. So that was really cool because they were locals and they did not have to do that. So
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that on your socials.
it was horrible. It was horrible. And everyone at the show was warning us, be careful when you're driving to Nashville. You're gonna like there's so many deer, but I'm like, we're not gonna hit a deer. The second I closed my eyes, I just remember hearing, uh-oh, and then that
Yeah,
was
I mean,
it.
that's usually how it goes with deer. I mean, I hit a deer once and it was like at 40 miles an hour, so it wasn't like at
Yeah.
highway speeds or anything, but it did do a number of damage on my car.
Yeah. I have personally hit six deer in my life, not counting that one because I wasn't the one that hit that one, but I grew up in on a chicken farm outside of Omaha. So I grew up in a very deer-ridden area and 16 to 19-year-old Josh coming home from school, I was hitting him. A deer hit me once, hit the back of my car, jumped out of a ditch. I remember just driving and I just heard a loud noise and my back of my car kind of got a little bump. And when I got home, yeah, the back of my car was dented.
Yeah,
Just
deer just do whatever they want, man.
they're
Do whatever they
magnets.
want.
Yeah.
I hit a raccoon once too at 75 miles an hour.
Oh
The
yeah.
thing would have survived had it not turned around.
They do that.
I don't know why. I don't know
I don't
why.
know.
It felt
Yeah.
really bad, but it dented my radiator and everything.
Oh,
It's
The,
craziness.
the only animal I know I hit for sure, I definitely hit something when I lived in North Carolina. It might have been a cat. I really don't know. It was dark.
it's better to not know. Yeah.
Yeah. When I lived in Florida, I hit an armadillo, and that's like
Oh,
hitting a speed bump at whatever speed you're going.
Yeah, I would imagine I could flip your vehicle in the wrong scenario.
Yeah,
Like,
it did a number on the shocks and the axle.
yeah. Jeez. And I bet the armadillo was probably fine. I've seen a
Yeah,
snapping turtle get ran over and it was fine.
depends on how big they are, I guess.
Yeah.
The little turtles don't survive,
No,
unfortunately.
this one was big. Yeah, this was a dinosaur crossing the
I'm one
road.
of those people that if you find a turtle on on the street and it's trying to cross the road, I stop traffic to move the damn
Yeah,
turtle.
I did. I did stop traffic, and this one guy, he was honking and he wasn't gonna slow down, so I had to jump out of the way and he smashed into it.
Yeah,
But the
I
turtle
hate
was
when
fine. It
people
was
are like
still,
that though.
yeah.
I hate
He
that.
probably just thought I was trying to, and it was funny because he had a really nice car, and I know that that thing cracked its bumper. So I was like, "Well, you should have listened to me, bud."
Good. Turtle one, car
Yeah.
nothing. I
so
know I saved a snapping turtle that was like super huge once.
They're dinosaurs.
I had to throw a blanket over it. It was gonna
Hmm.
get me.
They
And then
come at
some
you.
other person stopped to help me get it off the
Yeah.
street because I could not move it.
As
It
it
was
goes,
way
a
too
local will
heavy.
come by with like a shovel they've got pre-prepared, you know?
It was heavy. I wasn't moving it by myself.
so speaking of giant turtles being dinosaurs crossing the road, that does bring us to our final question. What's your favorite dinosaur?
It's so basic, I feel like. But I like the Stegosaurus. I don't know if that's a basic answer, but I like the Stegosaurus. I don't know. They're like the rhinos of the day, but they had like those cool fins for no reason. I don't know if they were for a reason or not, but
I think they were
yeah, and it
considered
comes
armor.
yeah, it comes from Land Before Time. I was just like
You were Spike.
of all the cartoon dinosaurs, I
Was
was like,
Spike the Stegosaurus?
I don't think Spike was a
Sarah was the
Stegosaurus.
Stegosaurus.
No, Sarah
Sarah
was a
was a Triceratops.
You're
Triceratops.
right, you're right. Yeah, you're right. What was Petrie?
Pichu was a pterodactyl.
That's right. Just a baby one.
And then you had Ducky.
Why did they do that to us? The movies we grew up on. So much just loss and suffering. I always quote that one from Lion King where Simba is in like the valley after his dad just gets trampled by that stampede and he's just yelling, "Help! Everybody!" Like, I was not ready for that as a child. Like,
Yeah, there was not a children's movie from the 90s or early 2000s that wasn't based off of the death of a parent.
yeah, it was like I don't know who it was. Even things like Fox and the Hound was sad. You know what I mean? Like, we couldn't even just have a nice little story about a fox and a dog having a bromance.
And yes, Spike was the Stegosaurus.
Okay. Okay, it
I
was
had to
Spike.
look him up. I had to look him up.
Yeah.
He's just not your typical like looking Stegosaurus. Like
Yeah.
He was still growing because he was a baby,
He was
remember,
growing. That's
Chris?
right. That's the thing. Yeah. Little neck or little
Littlefoot,
foot. Little
Littlefoot.
Little,
foot. Little foot had a little neck.
It's been a while, since you probably watched The Land Before
I
Time.
have not watched it since I was watching it on VHS as a child.
now a tree star is just supposed to be a leaf, right?
Yeah.
Is it a special leaf? Like, or I
I
don't
think
know.
it's just because his like Littlefoot's mom was like that was
Yeah,
something they ate,
it was
and they
something
called
they
them tree
ate.
stars
Yeah.
because they're shaped like the
Symbolism.
stars.
Symbolism. They find it again or something. I don't know. I remember there's a scene where like someone steps on one. I was like, ah, not the leaf.
Well,
Yeah, I think
because
it's when
like
they're running away from something and it falls off, or like Petrie drops it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Spike stomps it on accident.
I can definitely say I haven't watched that movie in like forever.
I think we need to. I think we need to see this, and I think I need to talk to my therapist about it next time. I need to bring this up.
Maybe The Land Before Time like shaped us all, in some way, and
Yeah, I think
we
it
have no
did.
idea.
Yeah.
Just walk into your therapist's office. What's going on? And just slide the VHS onto the table.
Hey man, put this on.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say though, you saying Stegosaurus isn't that basic because we do get a lot of people that just say T-Rex or
Uh,
Velociraptor.
yeah, true.
We don't get a lot of Stegosaurus people.
I feel unique now.
I think
I'm
we've had
glad you
maybe
said that.
one
Yeah.
since we started
Maybe.
asking this question to everyone.
I feel like this is also a question that would make a lot of people panic. You know what I mean? You're like, oh no, am I going to say the wrong
Some
thing?
people come up with really good answers, like they're definitely dinosaur nerds. And then you have
Yeah,
people
someone's like,
that
oh,
aren't dino nerds,
Galapagos.
and so they go with like, your standard dinosaurs. But there's nothing wrong with it. At least you know what a dinosaur is and know
Nothing
different
wrong with liking
kinds.
a raptor. You know what I mean? Just a good old Jurassic Park raptor.
Yep. You know,
The safe
I
choice.
still keep telling Chris every time I need to think of a better dinosaur because mine's just the Brachiosaurus.
Mm, it's a good one.
I know, but
I think all
it's very
dinosaurs are
basic
great. It
too.
is basic, but until you get into things like, I don't even know, like don't they have a dinosaur that's called like the
Yeah.
Gigantomaxosaurus?
There's
You
like
know what I
Giganosaurus. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when they started not thinking of good names for it, I guess.
They ran out of names. This one's bigger than the T-Rex. Gigantosaurus, man. I don't know. Just, you know.
That's like weathermen naming like winter storms and stuff now.
Yeah.
I don't remember them ever naming winter storms when I was
Yeah.
like younger, and all of a sudden it's a thing.
They're named.
So we got to name everything now because,
Yeah.
they named hurricanes for years. We don't name tornadoes though.
We don't.
There'd be too
Nope.
many. They'd run
No
out of names
tornadoes
too
out here in
fast.
Philly. We're safe. It's a thing of the past for me.
Hopefully. You never know though.
You never know.
This day and age, you never know.
Yeah. I might witness the first Philly tornado.
Hey, you never know. Wasn't there a place that a tornado hit I think Chicago got a tornado over the summer and it was like
Yeah, somewhere weird got a
some crazy
tornado too
fluke
that
and people
shouldn't
were
have
like,
gotten a
"What?"
tornado. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yep. Well, the dinosaur question was our last question.
All
If
right.
there's anything you'd want to add to the end of the interview for anyone else still listening.
I would say, yeah, just find me on the internet. Is it Josh anywhere? And if you are the type of person who likes to support artists, and I'm not just speaking for myself, but any artist you support, you may not know it, but just you truly interacting with them on social media helps so much, and it's truly the modern day street team. So I always just want to say that like the fans out there right now truly are the ones shaping the landscape. Even labels can't do it without that. So if you're someone out there who is keeping the scene alive by being that person who does like, comment, share, send to their friends, and do all those things that sound so trivial, like you're a real one and you're keeping us all going. So thank you, and yeah, we love you for that.
Well, it was great chatting with you
Yep.
Yeah, it was great
And
chatting with you guys.
once we cut recording, you're welcome to stay and chat with us for a little bit if you want.
Cool.
if you want.